श्रीरामचरणं 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 भजे श्रीरामचरणं 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 भजे श्रीरामचरणं 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 भजे
श्रीरामचरणं 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 भजे
श्रीरामचरणं 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 भजे श्रीरामचरणं श्रीरामचरणं रामचरणं श्रीरामचरणं श्रीरामचरणं भजे वैदेही रामं वैकुण्ठरामं शरणं भजे सत्य साई राम शरणं भजे सत्य साई राम सत्य साई राम शरणं भजे सत्य साई राम शरणं भजे श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं भजे श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं भजे श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं वैदेहि रामं वैकुण्ठरामं वैदेहि रामं वैकुण्ठ चूडामणि रामं रघु साई रामं श्रीराम चरणं भजे राम चरणं भजे सत्य साई राम चरणं भजे सत्य साई राम चरणं भजे सत्य साई राम श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं श्रीराम चरणं भजे
देवी भवानी मां जय साई भवानी मां
भवानी मां जय साई भवानी मां
भवानी मां जय साई भवानी मां
देवी भवानी मां साई भवानी मां
दया करो साई मां कृपा करो साई मां दया करो साई मां कृपा करो साई मां
जय साई भवानी मां जय साई भवानी मां
జయమా జయ దేవా జయ పతియా శ్రీవా జయ సాయి
जय साई भवानी
जय पतिया श्रीवा जय साई भवानी जय पतिया श्रीवा
जय साई जय साई I keep seeing your love in me. Oh, I keep seeing. Oh, I and it's sweeter and sweeter and
Sabe sai मन बंगारी परती बाबा बंगारी परती बाबा मन बंगारी परती बाबा बंगारू परती मन बंगारी परती बाबा बंगारू परती बाबा
Hare Baba, Shiva 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 Sati Baba, Shiva Sai Baba, Hare Baba, Shiva 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 Sati Baba, Shiva 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 Sati Baba, Shagadira, Dida Sati, Shagadira. Shagadira. Shiva 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 Sati Baba, Sai Baba, Shiva 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 Sai Baba, Sai Baba, Shiva Shiva. Sorry.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. With love, reverence, deep gratitude, I extend a heartfelt welcome and if you gathered here to celebrate the 100th birthday centenary of our beloved Bhagwan over the next 2 days. You all are energized symbolizing the dispelling of darkness and the illumination of wisdom, peace, and divine love. It is my privilege to warmly invite Sister Nirmala Ravichandran to come forward and light the ceremonial lamp. To please come forward and light the ceremonial lamp. May this light remind us of Bhagwan's message from truth to untruth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Thank you, brother and sister, for leading us into today's program, which is going to be filled with talks, service activities, workshops, and divine offerings of love from our ladies, SSC children, and young adults. Sai 100 is not just a commemoration of Swami's birth, but a celebration of his divine life dedicated to love, service, truth, peace, and nonviolence. 100 years ago, the Lord took human form in Puttaparthi to remind humanity of its innate divinity and to guide us back to the path of selfless love. Many of us know Swami through our parents or grandparents. Some of us have been Swami students, either in his schools, colleges, or at Balvikas. While several of us have experienced Swami later in different stages of our lives and have been guided by him. In fact, some of us might have known Swami just at this moment, on this occasion. However, all of us are truly blessed to be here on this 100th birthday of Swami. This is a lifetime opportunity. It happens just once. And it is our amazing opportunity to be here and celebrate this with all of us here. Sai, and this meant not just to rejoice Sai, but to practice message, to spread his love, and to become instruments of his grace. While we celebrate this milestone, let us keep our hearts open to his divine love, his divine presence, and work towards becoming better versions of ourselves. As we celebrate the 100th birth anniversary of Bhagwan, we here in Chicago are doubly blessed, for it also marks the golden jubilee of Sai Chicago. 50 years of devotion, service, unity, and spiritual transformation. It has been 100 years since Swami's advent and 50 years of the Chicago Sai community walking in his footsteps. 1 century of his message and half a century of our humble efforts to live that message. The centenary reminds us of Bhagwan's eternal presence. Jubilee reminds us of how those values have taken root here in Chicago through service projects, devotional programs, education in human values, YA activities, and as ever-growing love of devotees. I now call upon Sister Usha Bala to walk us through the beginning and growth of Sai Chicago over the first 25 years between 1975 and 2000, followed by which Brother Ram Katuri will take us through the developments and feats that have been successfully accomplished through Swami's grace over the next 25 years. Over to you, sister.
Sairam, everybody. Sairam. I offer my humble pranams to the Lord Swami, who has brought us all here for a very noble cause of his, and he gives us opportunity to be together to celebrate him. Sai Ram to everybody. Sai Ram to my brothers and sisters. As you see, I don't have a cell phone. I tried, and everything I wrote just disappeared right in front of our eyes, and we couldn't retrieve it. So I figured I need to go back to my 50 years back, where paper and pencil, it's not going to disappear. Somebody might have to hold it, but it's not going to disappear from me. So you know we come from a very, very long back. I was asked to recap the history of our center for 54 years. You know, sometimes I don't remember 8, but here 54 years is a really a high demand. But you know what? That's what it is. And I'm hoping to give you as much information as I remember as of today. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Bear with me for a minute. Thank you. I wanted to offer a disclaimer as I begin because that's what I just said, that I'm not sure if I'm going to remember everybody and the thing, but here it is. Okay. It's going to be a storytelling because it goes long way back. It's not going to be sometimes off and on, but it's going to be there. Well, the way I'm going to present it, a bit of startup history, which is might be a little bit personal, signing of the center, all the groups to become a center, and the locations we had, and the bhajans, and the balvikas, and service, and as everything started happening, and organizing ourselves into an organization. That was a little bit difficult for us because initially we were all small groups of people in different places. Yes. Thank you. As our history goes, we were here from 1963, and I came here in 1966. And in 1971, I had a friend visit me from New York. She had a child who was not well, and she had been to Swami, and Swami told her to come to New York. And there she met Hilda Charleston, who had a group there. And after her son's surgery, her husband was transferred from New York to Des Moines, Iowa. Different culture, right? So they were driving, and she asked me if she could come and visit us. I said, sure. So in 1971, in early fall or late summer, she came to visit us. And at that time, she told me that she had a telephone number of a family that was hosting bhajans once a month on every Friday evening. And their name was Waisang, Joan Waisang. And they had 4 children, Joan and Jim Waisang. And so on September 9th, 1971, we drove to Joan's house in Hinsdale, Illinois. You know, we did not have all these 294 those days. You know, there were not too many expressways. So we drove to her house, and there we met them. And there were a few other people, I don't remember who they were. And we sang some bhajans, and we came back. And Sushila and Uma Shankar, their child, left for Des Moines, Iowa. And we started visiting Joan's house every month. I guess before that, the group met at Dwayne and Marjorie Robinson's house, but they had gone on an extended visit to Prashanti. So once they came back, we started meeting there. And you know, as it always happens, books come to you. So I started reading Howard Murfitt's book. And after Howard Murfitt's book, it was Kasturi's book. And that really drew me to Swami. So in 1973, I had finished my Montessori training and I was in summer. I had a job, so I figured we will go to India that summer. And we went, and it was in August of 1973. And August, even though it's warm, it's pretty cold in Parthi sometimes. So as it happened, as we were already here for a few years, we were not aware of what to take when we visited an ashram. Of course, we had never been to an ashram. So we went with just change of clothes and nothing else. And we were given a room right next to Mr. Kasturi. And all that room had was one mattress, small, a double mattress. And we said, what are we going to do? And as we walked out after we signed in, we met Mr. Kasturi, and he said, oh, you have everything. You have towels, soap, blankets. And we just looked at each other. He said, oh, I have 2 blankets, so I'll give you one. So you put half of it on the mattress and cover both of yourselves on the other half of the mattress, you know. So we said, okay. So that was very kind of him, and that's what we did. As we were right next door, we started talking to him more and interacting him with more. And we'd walk with him when we went to the bhajans. It was very, very different, especially at that time. There was sand all over, and the buildings were not that many buildings. And I heard somebody's talk yesterday, and she was saying when she was in Prashanti, they had to walk out to the Chitravati River where they would buy water and take a shower in cold water. But we did cold water, but then we got a faucet. You know, we didn't have anything else, but we had faucet. So we were a little bit ahead of her, time. Anyway, we spent a lot of time. And in that time, we found out that he was associated very closely with the Ramakrishna Ashram. And we, as our family, was very close with the Ramakrishna Ashram. My grandfather lived in the Ramakrishna Math in Chennai when he studied, got his bachelor's. And my dad wanted to become a sannyasi, and they said, no. His mother didn't give him permission, so he couldn't join the order. They need mother's permission. And so we would go to the ashram every day in Bangalore. So we were very closely associated. So knowing that he is from the Ramakrishna Ashram and our family is, that kind of connected us more and more. And then he started talking to us, telling us about the spiritual life that he was having, how he thought the Swami was as good as Sri Ramakrishna. They were both the same. There was no difference. It's just a different age. So all these things, makes you more comfortable thinking that, you're in the right place and this is where you want to be. And you start imbibing Swami's love. And Swami would walk around quite a bit because there was a lot of construction in those days in Parthi. So once all this happened and we came back to Chicago, we were very interested in following through. And Marjorie and Dwayne came back to Chicago and we started having bhajans. In 1975, there was a world conference in Parthi where Swami asked us to form an organization, Satya Sai organization. Of course, we were all loose. There were many groups, many places. And the organization came with quite a few guidelines for us. And you don't want restrictions on you. So we were not very happy with that restriction. But to emphasize the necessity of it, he gave us all the rules and how we should behave, how we should follow what he expected from us. And he also sent us 2 of his ardent devotees, Dr. Bhagavantam, a couple of times, and Mr. Gokak. And they were very, very convincing to us, letting us know that this is going to be a global thing. It's not just going to be in Chicago. And it's going to be very well organized. It's very important for us all to come together and do this. And also, reasons he gave us, one thing is brotherhood of man and fatherhood of God. And everybody is equal, no matter who you are, men, women, children, everybody would be treated the same. The values are the same. It is going to be value-based. But India it was mostly religion based because that's where, it is. But here he gave us to follow the values quite a bit. Um, I don't know, do you want me to read the thing or where's Cypress enough? Do you want me to read that or do you? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see this. Oh, that the first picture is where we were in Highland, Indiana. That is where my friends came from New York to visit us. Um, and then I'll talk about these pictures a little later. We should go ahead and form this organization. And he gave us the 10 He gave the 9-point code of conduct and 10 principles to live by. I'm sure all of you have those, and many of us who have signed as members had to read these before we became members. And one of the things he told us was the reason is there are so many distractions outside to follow the values that Swami was incorporating, that he wanted us to incorporate in our life. So this is a place where we could come, we could practice it, follow it, offer it to the humanity outside. And one of the things was, he said, when we work, we do a lot of compromisation. Whereas, we follow the rules, but then we have to break our rules, even though we know it's not the right thing to do. But here, we do not have to do that. We are open. Everything is open. Nothing is secret in our centers. The membership meetings, all the discussions, everything happens in open. And we are all brothers and sisters, as we call ourselves. So it was easier to do that. So in 1976, after the conference in 1976, sometime in February, if I recall, Marjorie and Dwayne came back. And at that meeting, we met in South Holland, Illinois, which is 1623 South Holland, Illinois. I don't think we have a picture of that. And at that meeting, we had Marjorie and Dwayne Robinson, who had just come back from India. We had Mani Majumdar and Mr. Majumdar. I don't see them here. We had Radha Rao. Send Radha. And we had Uni. Uni was not married at that time. Uni Krishnan, who lives in Seattle right now, he was there. And of course, Bala and I. Some of us signed some papers that day, some of us didn't. And at that time, Marjorie was selected as the president, and I became the vice president at that time. And organization-wise, we were not that big on it. So we didn't, of course, the bhajan, right? So the first thing Baba Center is bhajans, everything. And we were so happy that we had Mani Majumdar who came. So the first area of introduction to us was bhajan. So she was an asset. Swami's grace sent us here. Mani is a professional musician who conducted a lot of music. She taught music as well as she was a Baba devotee. She's bhajan. So for us, she was the anchor. She taught us how to lead bhajans, how to sing bhajans, how to keep the tal, how to keep what a rhythm was, what a tune was, and everything else that goes with. And then she taught us how to lead the bhajans. She spent hours and hours because we were all novices, maybe one or two, maybe, as we went along. But most of us were novices at that. And she painstakingly did that for years and years. And after that, she even made some tapes with us, which was very, very popular at that time in the 70s and early 80s. Early 80s, I don't think it was 70s. I think it was early 80s. It went around India. And I think all the proceeds went to Swami's building of the Swami's hospital from that. That was one thing. And at that time, we also had Janet Bach from California, who started making or putting up budgets. A lot of And Hal Horning from New York, he was another one who started making bhajans, writing bhajans. So with that, and we also had more Westerners being in the country. Another thing Swami told us to do was to make sure that your center reflects the culture of where you are. So we had a lot more Westerners than we see today. But then, we had a lot more English bhajans because they were coming. And we also started getting tapes from India. I don't know how many of us remember Veena Vijaya, who's played Veena in Prashanthi Nilayam, practicing every evening, either Prashanthi Nilayam or Vrindavan. I thought it was Prashanthi Nilayam. I've seen her there and heard one very good. And also from Sundaram, started making Sundaram tapes. I don't know how many of you know what tape means. Okay. I should have brought a show and tell. I didn't. We do have one. I think Rajkumar's have one too, right, Savitri? Okay. We have plenty of tapes and tape recorder. Remember we're coming from the big reel to reel that our parents had in India. But this was a little bit different. So we were pretty thrilled. It was small cassettes that came, so it was easy to carry. And we brought that here, and then we started adding more bhajans to that. And of course, the Akhan bhajan started happening, and there were not too many singers. I think we started Akhan bhajan in 1978, and Rajkumar had joined us by then. And we have Ed here. Ed is one of our old timers. Ed, would you stand up and say hello to us? Sairam. 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 Ed, when did you join? But guess what? Ed was not married. He was single, So, so he introduced us to Lynn, and many of us, I think, in the center were at his wedding, if I remember right. Right? Okay, so we go way back, and it was a very small center. We probably 40 people. Anyway, Akhanda Bhajan started happening, and we would sing the same song again and again and again. I don't know how many times we sang those songs. And it happened at homes, different homes. And we had one bedroom that was marked gents, now the children, another one had ladies. So right, every 2 hours, so we could keep going. That's right. And then once the Sundaram tapes came and Veena Vijaya's tapes came, we started singing more and more, But we have even sneakily put on the tape when Mani didn't see it. And then when she got to know she was not a happy camper, she said, "Why didn't you take me up? I could have come in instead of putting the tape on." So anyway, that was that. And she was a big asset even after, I think it was 1978, 79, we became really an organization. We started really growing. Until then, it was very few of us. And Akhanda Bhajan started in 1978. And so we have a little bit of a group. And then officers, we were just 2 of us. There were not too many. And once that happened, Majumdar was a president for quite a long time. But the vice presidents changed every 2 years. It was just not like now we have, it was no open session that was being held, And after that, of course, we didn't have enough children to have Balvikas because the 4 children we had were not old enough in 1978. But then in 1975, 76. But then we started our Balvikas in 1978. And we had Anita Balakrishnan at that time, Rekha Rajkumar, and Swastik Lahiri, and Rita Kachu. There were 4 of them. So as you see, they graduated only in 1988. So we had by the time they graduated. So our first graduation EHV class was in 1986 or 88, somewhere there. Only then after that, we started adding, 4 each at that time. I would say we probably have about 200 of them right now, if I remember, or maybe close to. And of course, we were small number of teachers. Yeah. Oh, I want to finish the music part of it before I go to education. And then in 1988, uh, Dr. Rambala joined us from Quincy. He used to visit, but he wasn't here all the time because they had Akana Bhajan there and we had Akana Bhajan in Chicago. And when he moved on, it was really wonderful. And I think money, I don't know when the Naperville Center was established. She moved to Naperville because they formed a group center there. So it was Rambala here. Of course, we know, Rambala, how he just brought everybody's, voice up as much as he could. Some of us didn't make it, some of us did make it. It's very good. I'm not a singer, but many of you are. But we know him so well. And he also worked along with this to put a bhajan book out. The devotees that are here that helped him, and they worked for hours and hours. Those available all over the world now. Even when you a few people, I think Sairam was involved and his wife Uma was involved. Rajkumars were involved. I don't know if Murali was involved in it too. Murali was. I don't know who else. So they worked for many, many hours. So that was a beautiful educational value. In that that's Balvikas. In the coming back to the education, Swami gave, initially we called it Balvikas, and we started with the program that Swami had for the group one. People got together. They had a few teachers workshops and stuff like that in Prashanti, because Swami always worked in groups. He had these conferences, but I'm told close devotees who went to those conferences, they made them groups and they gave them different areas to work on. Then they came together and they came to consensus, and then they gave us back as these are the guidelines for you to work. Krita Sherman from St. Louis was a very frequent visitor to Chicago, and she was in Prashanti almost every summer for these conferences. And she and us were very close, and that's where we got a lot of information from. So even though as the children grew, as Balvikas grew, we needed more teachers. Initially, we had Radha and Asha, Subramaniam, Savitri, Mohan was here, Uni was here. I don't think Durga taught, and I think, pardon me? I were here. Durga taught too, I'm told, and then Bharti came in a little bit later, joined us, and Savitri was the first coordinator, and then for 2 years or 4 years, and then I became the coordinator. And the thing is, since we are Montessori teachers, we were able to bring in the Montessori method in there. It was easy for us because Montessori philosophy is very close to Swami's philosophy. It's a universal philosophy. You go around the world, any place, you'll find a Montessori school exactly the way it should be laid out. In India, in Germany, in Mexico, anywhere you go, your practical life might change. The same way as we walk into a center, anywhere we go, I know Bala has gone to South America quite a few times. We have gone to Europe quite a few times. You go into a Baba center, it's the same layout. It's the same format they use. So you feel comfortable. And the philosophies are very similar. So we were able to incorporate the education and human values very easily into our program. And in the Balvikas and the spiritual, Satya Sai spiritual education is what we call what we taught in the center. What we taught Swami's name. So one thing was in the center, we had Swami's name as God. Outside, it was taught as without Swami's name. So basically, they were the same. And we given a format how to do it. We explanation of the prayer. Then we had handicraft about it, and we followed through the next week. That's how every single value was taught. But under values, there were many sub values, and they were also taught at the same time. And as we go along, the service sector came along. I don't know the time, so maybe if some of you are keeping 5 minutes more. Oh, then we had the service wing came along, and Raghunan Bagram. I want to, before I finish the AHV, I want to mention something. Leonatus was a constant 3 to 6, 3 years old and 6 to 6-year-old teacher. Just as that, maybe 15 years, 20 years, I don't know, or more. Okay. I know Savitri taught Balavikas or SSC for 25 years. I did for 25 years. I'm sure Radha did for 25 years. But Lynn did the same 25 years, but only with one group. Every day she was there. She was also the president. And we also have one Balvikas graduate from the early years, Michael Leonidas. Can you stand up and thank you. So that was that, so we do go, way back. Okay, coming back to service. We were doing sandwiches and distributing it from the 70s on, but it was not formed as a complete center activity at that time. But we did get organized under Bagram. And Bagram was from Trinidad. He's still around. I hear Ravi talks to him often. We haven't for him. One of the service projects all of us enjoyed very much and got very involved was in the Polish church off of Division. I think we must have cooked there for 6 to 8 years and different things, but the group was divided. But at this time, the center has grown. We were about, I would say 40, 50, 60 people. And so we were in two groups. One group bought everything and cooked, and they left. Another group came and served for 250 people because we started 2:00 or something. We did lunch. We did not do dinner. We did lunch. So we'd go in the early morning and started. And we had a lot of families come too. It was very surprising how many, and elders as well as families. So we served them all. And then there was a group that came to serve and clean up. So that's how that was worked up. Sandwich, and we started making sandwiches for Salvation Army from way back when. They were very, very happy, with that. What I forgot to tell you, we're once a month, but then from then on, we came to weekly, and we couldn't find a place. Ed is nodding is there. So it was a central place. We met at her yoga. We were there. We even ended up at her home on Lakeshore Drive for a few months. And from there, we moved to Lawrence Center, the People's Church, where we were cooking. We were there for a few months. I think they had construction or something Oak Brook for 3 years. At Stevens permanent place. So it was easier for them this in the north. And the retreats was a big one. And we started having retreats from 1978. And the first retreat we had was in Lafayette, Indiana. Were you there, Ed, for that? Okay. But we were- we were there and of us $18 a person. Okay. So you can see how far we have come, from there. And so St. Louis has had it for Michigan had it for quite a few years until it came back to Chicago, because and also children's program, as you see some of these pictures, that and those are some of the plays that the children put out, as you see. Some of them, the initial one was Cowan was here. She was in St. Louis, right? Was in St. Louis, and then uh, we started. We had his club,